I don't like getting mad. I really don't. Like, I do not like getting frustrated. I do.
Why are you frustrated?
Ask my kids. I will. I'll unload. It comes up in certain moments. Certain comments will get you a certain way.
Yeah.
Listen, the listening audience, we love all of you. And there's a healthy discussion. There's, I hope, respect. It's amazing that you're here making us a part of your day. We love that. Certain times, the wrong thing is said at the wrong time or what have you. Okay? That stuff doesn't get under our skin. We've been doing this for too long. You and I have been doing this for 30 years, 25 years. And everybody can have their opinion. I don't care. But as you've seen before, what will get me going? When you attach something to my name or my mouth that I did not say or I did not think. And then you put it out there. So, good afternoon, Lorenzo King on YouTube. Hey, Willard, let me explain. Your agenda is that Trey is trash. The fact is he got injured. Then Purdy came along and earned the job. We don't know if Trey is a bust. Purdy, however, looks promising. Okay, I never said the word bust. I've never said the word trash. The problem here is that the people who have a problem are actually the problem. So the tables need to be turned. You are all the problem.
Are you flipping the spread on our listeners?
I am flipping the spread. The craft services table, if you will. You people out there, and some of you are in the media, you people have turned this into a fight for no reason. None. Nobody's got anything against Trey. I've tried to spend the better part of a year telling you that my only opinion is assessing the 49ers' opinion. We spent the whole show yesterday saying, I don't even know how the hell anybody has an opinion about what Trey can and can't do. I think it's crazy that some of y'all think you have any clue what he could do.
And I think it's crazy that any of us think that our opinion matters for a hill of beans, because our opinions about Trey Lance, they don't matter in terms of will he or won't he be the Niners quarterback.
I guess you could make the case that our opinion never matters, but we get to have it.
No, and I love that we do have it. But in terms of getting mad, like if I don't think Trey Lance is very good based on the very little I've seen of him as a pro quarterback, but if Kyle Shanahan thinks that Trey Lance is amazing, well, Kyle Shanahan's going to keep Trey Lance and he's going to play Trey Lance, even if my opinion is that Trey Lance is not very good. And you can say that and you can think that about every single player on every single team. What we think in terms of our analysis and our opinion, it only matters in terms of how it makes us feel.
There's a really easy exercise for everybody so that you can get through all this muck. Just assess what you think the 49ers think based on their behavior. What's their behavior? What have the 49ers done since they drafted him?
They've won.
Okay. What have they done specific with Trey? What does their behavior tell you?
Well, they showed us that early on they were going to use him in certain packages.
Okay.
And Jimmy G got hurt in his rookie year, and you played him. And then Jimmy G got healthy, and so you put your starter back in, which is what most football teams do. And then the year ends, and Jimmy says, see ya, and you go into camp, and Trey Lance is QB1. And you give him all the QB1 reps that you can while Jimmy's over on the kiddie field, and Brock Purdy is in oblivion, a.k.a. Bolivia, as our friend Tony Bruno would refer to it. And then you give Trey Lance a starting job in year 2. And you say, you know what, kid? You're our starter. And they either got him hurt or they limited the playbook or however you want to couch it. Bottom line is they gave him the starting job, and then Trey Lance got hurt. And he got hurt for the remainder of the year. And then year 3, he comes back, and, well, the guy who replaced you turns out to be a maze, and he didn't lose games that he started and finished. And so he's going to be QB1, and they brought in some other people to compete with him for QB2.
Well, there you go. So the only thing that I think you left out on that timeline is what the Niners have done in terms of transactions. Okay? When you hand a quarterback a locker room in the NFL, you are actively motivated to not put people and things in his way. You do not want to hang a looking over your shoulder type situation to a player that you are handing the locker room. But that's what the Niners did. They brought Jimmy back. And forever my opinion will be that it's hysterical how many people thought it was because, well, you could never have too many good quarterbacks. Hysterical. Of course it was a hedge. Of course they were hesitant about what they were seeing. So that's number one. And then what do we do the very next year? Poof. First day of free agency. Let's go get the biggest name backup who's available on the market. Let's do that. Even though we don't even want Trey to be our starter next year, we're not even confident right now to make him the backup. And then you sign an OTA arm and you won't let him go and you give him all kinds of reps as Trey is battling for the 2 job. The behavior is clear. It's as clear as day. This is not what anybody thinks. This is what is actually happening. The 49ers are just not sold on anything they've seen. So that to me is a fact. That's a baseline for the conversation. But for all of you people who have decided that something is unfair, something has got an agenda, somebody's biased about something, I don't even know what you're talking about. The guy doesn't even play. He doesn't even play. So all because he had a very high, lofty draft status, somehow we've decided that this guy's not allowed to be a bust. I mean, the Raiders seemingly every year cut somebody that they've picked in the first 2 rounds within the last 3 years. Flat out cut him. Nobody says a word. Nobody says a word. Something's going on here where a guy has not performed the way a team wants him to perform. That's the whole story and the end of the story. And if you say it, we all have to have a big fight about it.
Well, I don't think we've reached the end of the story yet, but when something comes out like the Mike Silver piece in the Chronicle where he indicates that cutting Trey Lance is a possibility, it's the worst case scenario, but it is a possibility. When you put that statement out there, it does give that feeling of finality that we haven't reached yet. And I make the James Wiseman comparison all the time because I think it's apt, because the Warriors got to a spot at their trade deadline and realized this is the end of the road for James Wiseman and the Golden State Warriors. So they had determined whatever they determined up to that point, that either James wasn't ever going to be good enough or he wouldn't be good enough fast enough, or they needed a player that badly to try to win a second straight championship that the deal had to be made. And the 49ers are now sitting here 28 days, 4 weeks from today, I believe, is cut down day, August 29th. Between now and August 29th, they've got decisions to make about their quarterback room. Brock Purdy is the starter. That's a 100% certainty, assuming he stays healthy. Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen. You got 3 guys for 2 spots and a practice squad spot that likely won't be filled by any of those 3 guys. So we're not at the end of the race here. You've got 3 guys for 2 spots, but when something like the Mike Silver piece comes out, it gets everybody agitated over the fact that if Trey Lance does get cut and he gets picked up by another team, then there's going to be that feeling of the Niners blew it.
Sure. Well, but even if they keep him and he's QB3, the Niners blew it.
Right.
They blew it. They blew it. I'm not. That's not calling him a bust.
No, but I think
if you pick someone number 3 overall and in his 3rd year he can't win your starting job, you blew it.
Or your backup job.
You blew it.
Or your 3rd string job.
Right?
Yeah.
You blew it. That doesn't mean he's never going to be a good player.
But did you blow it by picking him and you blow it by cutting him? That's what people are getting agitated about.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, you're right. We're not there yet.
No.
The arrival I've made in my mind is we are at a spot where we can accurately say the 49ers are not sold, hesitant, unimpressed. I don't know, whatever word you want to use. They're not into it. They got a guy 3rd overall, and they're not into it. So to me, those are facts, and we can play in that sandbox without everybody hucking sand at each other. D in Walnut Creek. Hey, D, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What you doing, D?
Oh man, I'm sitting here in my kitchen crying my eyes out.
Crying? Why?
He's cutting onions.
Yep, I did for 3 onions for pico de gallo sauce,
Oh, my gosh.
Boy.
Pico de gallo makes the world
really
go around.
Did. You guys are definitely my favorite show on 95 The Game, but let me tell you, it's fun to hear you guys dispute because you listen to Guru, he gets angry. He gets mad. Nothing like coming to work every day knowing you're going to get angry or mad at something, right? Anyway, I think with all the Bay Area here, I think I speak for a lot of us fans that the football gods haven't smiled well on Trey Lance. And, it's leaving a lot of us scratching our heads, It's kind of like winning the lottery. You got the first 5 numbers. You're waiting for that next number to pop up. It could be Darnold or Lance or Allen, whatever his name is. So here we are. We're waiting for that last 5th number, and it's not going to happen until August. What say you guys?
D, thanks. Yeah, I mean, sure. That's all. There's a bunch of ... here. And it's going to play out. And the 49ers will let it play out. I don't think nothing hasty is going to happen here. I guess the point I'm trying to make, and it's definitely one that gets people going, is that there's a certain part of the story where we have already arrived. Right? You don't pick someone 3rd overall, and then in year 3, you're sitting here going, yeah, I don't even know if he could be our backup. That's not how it works. When you pick someone in the top 5, it's damn hard to even get halfway through the next year, usually, without giving that guy your starting job. And it's usually because those teams stink. We all understand that dynamic. But the idea that, as you put it, D, the football gods have not smiled on Trey. Sure, that's true. There have been injuries. There's no two ways about that. And he's had another rookie come in and look great. And the Jimmy situation, yeah, there's been some bad luck there. But what I think people have a hard time grasping is that Trey has had a bunch of chances, not just the 4 games. He's had a chance to show the 49ers every day what they want to see. And they haven't seen it yet. He has had accuracy issues. These are facts. These are not opinions or hate or any of that. So I just think there's a lot of stuff that has happened that people won't acknowledge. And somehow instead they try to explain it away by saying somebody's got something against Trey.
Right, and the opportunities that we see are not the same as the opportunities that Kyle Shanahan and company see. And I do want to add this to the reporting from today. Trey Lance was seen after practice working on his deep ball. Mm-hmm. He stayed on the field for X number of minutes after the fact, just throwing deep balls to a team trainer or a team assistant in shorts and a T-shirt. So Trey Lance is putting in the work. This is not a case, and you mentioned this earlier with Steiny, this is not a guy who is dogging it or asleep in meeting rooms. This is a guy who's done everything he can in his power to get better, but he's just not good enough in their eyes, and this is not my opinion, and I agree with you in terms of the evidence that has been shown in actions, not words. Mike Silver of the Chronicle wrote words in his piece, and you and I spend 4 hours a day with words. YouTube commenters, texters, callers, all the rest of it. These are words and opinions, but Kyle Shanahan is there every day, and Trey Lance is also there, and he's putting in the work. And if you look at all the actions from everybody involved, Trey Lance has done everything in his power to be the best player he can be, yet they brought in Sam Darnold, they kept Brandon Allen, and Brock Purdy is the undisputed starter going into the year. So these, and I like the way you lay that out in terms of fact, because you know I love facts. These are facts that these actions have happened. It doesn't mean that Kyle doesn't love Trey Lance. It just means that there's a competition for QB2.
There's almost somewhere embedded in everything that you just said is almost a little bit more concern. Like, you take a pick like a Reuben Foster situation. You take a pick in the first round, and the talent is kind of there, but things go then a little bit sideways, and it eventually ends up being, maybe there were behavioral issues. Maybe it was just personalities that didn't blend. You almost wish that was there here because it would help explain how the 49ers evaluated him as one thing and then in reality he was something completely different. But there's none of it. There's none of that here. You're right. The guy is like perfect in terms of who he is and the effort he puts forth. And he's still not getting it. He's still not getting where they want him to be at this point. Dave in Fresno is next up here on Willard and Dibs. Hi, Dave. What are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm actually at home listening to you guys talk about this ongoing situation that doesn't seem to go anywhere, but it's always
Nope.
stuff and good to listen to you guys. I wanted to bring this up, though. I want to ask you guys your opinion. The focus obviously is going to be on the QB battle and who wins and who starts. I get all that. But at what point do we turn our attention to the head coach who's making these decisions? And if you look at it, I think there's some trust issues here. I know I have some. I don't know if other Niners fans do, but when he came in and took over the Niners, we had the second overall pick, and we know how that went. We took Solomon. Yeah, they passed on Watson. Didn't scout Mahomes, and he chose to draft C.J. Beathard and go and bring in Brian Hoyer. So I think finding that quarterback, it's been a little shaky. I know we had Jimmy, and we all know how that turned out. He was average. He was mid. So
he was good. He was good. He wasn't great. The guy went to a Super Bowl. Let's give him that. You know what I mean? But Dave, I'll say this. I don't think there's anything you said there that I would disagree with, other than your assessment that the focus is not on Shanahan. I think it completely is. I think it completely is on Shanahan. We hear that all the time from our listeners and people who have questions about his ability to draft, assess the quarterback, get the right guy. Sure, if Brock Purdy doesn't work out, if Brock Purdy's not what everyone thinks he is, Shanahan has a major problem on his hands in terms of all the people he's brought in over a 6-year period to be his quarterback, and they would still be on the search. That's all completely fair. He's won a lot of games. He's had a lot of success. The 49er organization is way better than it was back then. But I don't know. I feel like the focus is absolutely there.
The focus is
Kyle Shanahan.
It's on Kyle, of course, but then you look at what he's done, and you mentioned his record 13-4 last year with a guy taken with the last pick in the draft. So yes, the focus is on Kyle Shanahan as it pertains to the elusive search for a franchise quarterback, but they've made it to 3 conference championships and a Super Bowl, all while he's looking for that elusive franchise quarterback. And yes, he passed on Deshaun Watson. And how's that working out for where Deshaun's been? Turns out that might have been a smarter move. I know he's a good football player, but he's a guy with major baggage. And Patrick Mahomes, you didn't scout him? Yeah, that was an oversight. But I look at where they were at the time, and the team that Kyle Shanahan inherited, you weren't ready for a franchise quarterback. Your team was so bad across the board. That's not to excuse passing on the greatest quarterback of this new generation, Patrick Mahomes. Other teams did the same. But Kyle Shanahan, to me, has been so successful, and he took this team from the dumpster to the penthouse. So he gets a pass in certain quarters.
I mean, again, as I say sometimes about Farhan, in my estimation, a lot more good than bad. There's plenty of stuff that you can point to. And if this does end the way that it appears it's going to end, with a trade or with a release, whether it's this year, whether it's next offseason, if Trey Lance is never the quarterback, that's going to go down as one of the craziest draft picks that anyone ever made. That'll be remembered. Don't worry about that. But if the 49ers, if the news is also got a backdrop of confetti coming out of the sky on Brock Purdy's head, I don't think anybody's really going to worry about it.
Right.
So, but that's the bar. And so the pressure's on.
Yes.
I don't think anybody needs to worry about that. There's plenty of pressure. They know that.
Kyle knows it, and there's additional pressure up here in the next 4 weeks because if Trey Lance, you decide he's not a part of the future of the 49ers, and then Brock Purdy turns out to not be the guy through injury or ineffectiveness, and you realize at the end of this year, geez, we made a mistake on Brock Purdy. He's not the guy. Well, then you're screwed because you've got Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. Trey Lance would have been traded or cut at that point, and now you're back to square one. That, to me, is the worst-case scenario for the quarterback position.
Yeah, let's go to Nathan in Belmont. Hey, Nathan, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What you doing, Nathan?
Oh, man, just sitting here relaxing at home, just listening to you guys talk. And
chilling.
I tell you, quite frankly, I've been watching football for a long time, and I think what Mike Silver is saying is hot garbage. Anybody who says Trey Lance has had adequate chances is nonsense. You don't prove ultimately whether or not you can do the job in practice. It's in games where you tell who a player is. Think about last year when you had all these guys in practice, both Brock Purdy, Nate Sudfeld, and Trey Lance, and he saw them all in practice, who was the starting quarterback? Trey Lance. And they didn't know who Brock Purdy was based on practice. The simple reason that Brock Purdy, the presumed starter, is because of what he did in games. The whole narrative that the practice issue is a false narrative.
Nathan, you got a couple things that are a little sideways here. Stay on the line right where you are. First of all, Brock Purdy didn't even have the chance to prove himself in practice because he's getting about 3 reps a day. So they didn't even know what the heck was going on. That's usually the way a QB3/4 is treated in the league. But because you wrote it, because you said it, that Silver's article is garbage, because in there he says that, and I know he said this on Twitter too, that Trey has had his chances. What if you changed that question? What if I told you that Kyle Shanahan believes that? Would you still call it hot garbage? Forget Mike Silver and the article for a second. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan thinks that Trey Lance has been given his chance?
I would say it's garbage because think about it this way. In the history of the NFL, of guys who are selected way in the top draft, you have drafted a kid who had the least resume in college in the sport. And so what you're alluding to is expectations. There's no way you should take a kid like Trey Lance and expect him to be a finely tuned product in a short period of time. You've had multiple quarterbacks who played much more college football who took 1 or 2 years before they hit. Even Josh Allen took about 2 years to get his act together and show he could really do it.
Sort of. Year 2, he was very good. Year 3, he became great. Nathan, I guess this is my point, and I appreciate your call and your passion on this. But the point to me is this. It is not year 1 or year 2. It is year 3. We've already established that the 49ers as a franchise are assessing things in practice, off-season, all the time. But what if they looked at the tape of the 4 games Trey played and saw all kinds of stuff that they didn't like? What about that?
It's very possible.
I mean, if not probable, to be honest with you. Like, you've brought up the play calling all the time.
Yeah.
Why do you think that those, like, people say, oh, we didn't get the whole playbook. Well, nobody gets the whole playbook. They get their playbook.
Right.
They get the book that's been made for them.
And the book that the coach thinks that they'll be comfortable with the plays that they are running. And if you look at the tape on Trey Lance, accuracy was an issue in those 4 games. His percentages, if you go to the advanced analytics in terms of percentages of balls that were inaccurate, forget completion percentage because there's drops and all the rest of it. His numbers are among the lowest in football. I know it's a small sample size, but that's all you have to go on as a fan who doesn't go to every practice. But Kyle Shanahan gets to see a lot more in terms of how Trey is handling things when practices aren't open.